Yo, what's up, y'all? We out here. Good morning in these streets. It's the Buff Missionary back again. Like, subscribe, and share. We out here continuing with our Bible study. And, I had kind of been debating on where to go. And I haven't really decided which book to go into next in terms of Bible study, like from not cover to cover, but from beginning to end of a full book. But I don't know. I just felt inspired to kind of talk about and share with some verses. So, to give you some context, I have this old, it's old now, even though I don't like the word, but this old Bible, Remnant Study Bible. You can see it's beat up. A lot of it is because of time, wear and tear, and a lot of it is because it's been in this case with the zipper that just keeps eating up the fake me out leather on this thing, vegan approved and all that good stuff. But actually, don't quote me on that. I don't know if this is real leather or not. But point is, since the time that I got this Bible back in 2015, I actually really, just really started taking more notes. So here you can see I have things written all over the place, just inspiration throughout the years. I marked up this section here with favorite Bible passages, and that I wanted to memorize. And there's at least 15 chapters on this list, including Romans 8, one of my favorites, some classics like Psalm 23, Psalm 1, 1 Corinthians 13, and Psalm 91 is actually the one that I want to go into. But yeah, I was just kind of looking around, and the reason I wanted to start here with Psalm 91 in particular is because I've been learning it in Portuguese. Now, I've wanted to speak or become bilingual for a while, and Portuguese is the language that I landed on. Spanish, for as many people as say Spanish should be the one, I agree with them to an extent, but I tried. When it came to trying to learn Spanish in high school, it was bad. I didn't have a teacher. It was more of a homeschool, self-paced study type thing, and it just wasn't working. I learned a bunch of words, but I didn't learn any grammar. And then later on, when I took Spanish off of that background in college, my Spanish teacher, I'll never forget her, and maybe not for good reasons, but she was like from Spain, I think, but she wasn't native Spanish, if that makes sense. I think she might have married into the culture, something like that. But her grasp on the language was very, very proper, very, super particular. And coming from what I had experienced in high school with my kind of broken Spanglish type learning of just putting words together here and there, and then going to a super particular, and I don't know if maybe because of her background and experience, that's why she was more just super rigid with it or not. I don't know. But it was just a bad mix. And I took Spanish 1 and 2 from her because she was like the only person offering it. And I heard the other professor was worse, but I didn't like it at all. Combine that with the fact that I had a lot of Spanish friends and Spanish speaking friends, I should say. And, to a lot of their credit, most of them were very forgiving. I would say that when I went and visited Spanish speaking countries, those were the most forgiving. And I had the most fun of my Spanish speaking experience in those Spanish speaking countries like Ecuador, Puerto Rico, for example. They loved it. But there were a few of my friends who I was closer to and would speak more to try to learn from, that they also were like, no, it's like this. No, it's like this. And I don't know, maybe because of the experience I had in high school and college, I was a little less receptive to that. I'm not going to put it all on my friends for wanting to hear their language spoken well. That's fair. But I think because of my issues with the learning process and all that stuff in high school and college, I think that's why I had more of a resistance to my friends trying to help me get better at the language. So I ended up embracing Portuguese. And I have a lot fewer friends that speak Portuguese, but my earliest childhood friend, shout out to my guy, Kevin Coelho, he's from Brazil, he's Portuguese. And a couple, Tiago and Catarina, gotta shout y'all out as well. They're out in Cambodia right now, I believe. But we served together in Palau as missionaries, and they're such good people, and they're from Portugal, and I went to go visit them in Portugal. So those are the homies for real, you know what I'm saying? So I decided Portuguese is the language that I really want to learn. Plus Brazil, my earliest childhood friend being from there, and other reasons, I want to go down and visit. So, you know, it just felt like a natural fit. But anyways, all of that to say, Psalm 91 is a chapter that is kind of beloved by people who appreciate the Psalms. And it's a beautiful sounding psalm in English, but I think it takes on another level when I study it in Portuguese. I have my Portuguese Bible here, all right? And I really like this thing just in terms of helping me learn the language. I think it's fun. It's a good challenge in memorizing scripture in Portuguese and another language. I just think that's really cool. So keeping that in mind, I want to jump into Psalm 91 and break this thing down according to the same 4 questions that we've been looking at Bible study from. And those questions being, what is God saying to me in this verse? How does this passage touch or intersect with my life? What does any idea that stands out have to do with my relationship with God? And what is God's invitation to me in these verses? And so Psalm 91, verse 1 in Portuguese. Aquele que habita no abrigo do Altíssimo e descansa à sombra do Todo-Poderoso. That's it for verse 1. It goes by really quick, but I like it. And in English, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Now, when I think of this verse, this idea of dwelling in the secret place of the Most High, there's a lot of biblical allusion to this idea of the secret place, right? And I think to really understand it, we have to look at the person who's saying it. The book of Psalms, authored by David, we know his experience, but just in a nutshell, if you aren't as familiar with it, we're talking about a guy who was, quick recap, the life of David. He grew up as a shepherd, the eighth son of a family who really didn't think that much of him. I say that because when Jesse, David's father, found out that Samuel was going to be coming over, high-profile prophet coming over to their house for a dinner, and that it might have something to do with the selection of a new king, he doesn't invite David into the dinner. David's older 7 brothers are all there, and David is the only one in the family who's not in the house while this is going on. He's still out there tending to his duties as a shepherd. But while he was out there, he talks about his experiences eventually as he's convincing Saul of his fitness to go head to head with Goliath. And he talks about his time out there with God and how God had helped him to conquer some things. And we see that this is also some of the things, these Psalms were also some of the things that David would write and do in his time by himself. I had another video, like 5 or 6 videos talking about solitude and nature with God and how there's strength there. And David was brought up as one of the examples that we have for that. And a lot of the Psalms come from David's experience in solitude and nature with God. And within that context, I believe that the solitude and nature with God is the secret place with God. And today, I think it's more important than ever that we take that and separate ourselves from society and the hustle bustle, the connection with social media and the tendency to feel like we're involved in every single thing that's going on all over the world at once. I think it's more important than ever for us to disconnect ourselves from that and to put ourselves into the secret place. For what purpose? He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. When you think of the level of exposition that we have to the world today, it's very hard for people to really connect with the world in a personal sense because we feel the weight of all of these big issues and world problems going on and things that we want to try to solve, but it all feels bigger than us. And we hear about things going on in places like Russia and Ukraine. We hear about things going on between places like Israel and Palestine. We hear about other wars going on in the Middle East. We hear about things going on in the Far East. Like we hear about all of these different struggles, and we're pulled in these directions where everybody wants us to have an opinion on them now because it's now a universal topic. And it's tough. It's tough to be in a position where the things that we're not intimately connected to, it's demanded of us now to have a stance on, and a practical and applicable stance, which is like, what are we going to do? I'm not saying that there's nothing we can do, and there's a lot of people who are doing a lot for these causes. But for the common person who is here and just tuning into these things on their phones, what are we going to do? It's kind of like I had a bunch of friends who were clowning the whole thing on social media of putting the little black square, something related to BLM, the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a whole nother discussion for a different day. We ain't getting into all that. But it's like, okay, you put a black square up and what? So it's interesting because everybody wants you to have an opinion on all these things. But when it comes to actually connecting it with something that you can connect with personally, we don't take the time to do that. And I think that the one thing that helps shield us from the pressure of feeling like we need to respond to everything that's going on in the world and be able to focus in on more what we can truly impact around us is this time in the secret place with the Most High, this solitude in nature with God. It enables us to abide under the shadow of the Almighty, which means that we have a shield. We have somebody who we can trust is bigger than all these situations, someone who created the world and didn't cause the problems in the world, but due to human choice allows it to happen, and we can trust his guidance. And the more time that we spend with him, the more trust that we build. You think of any relationship that you've either been in or experienced, whether familial or romantically or just friendship wise, the people that you spend more time with in relationship are the ones you have the most trust with. They're the ones that you're more likely to believe good about because you spent time with them and getting to know them. And as a result of the time you spend with them getting to know them, you make the decision to keep on investing there. You know, I have a friend who spent a lot of time last year getting to know a particular individual, and after that time decided that that's not the direction they wanted to go anymore. And as a result, just because they spent that time together doesn't mean that they still trust that person or feel the same way about them. Obviously not. But when it comes to God, the more time that we spend with him, the more likely we are to understand him more and give him the chance to understand us more, and then to better relate to him and experience more trust with him. And I think that's important because then we can get to a place where it's like, you know, let me focus on the things that I can do. And while it's good to bring attention to all these other things and want good for all these situations all over the world, I personally may not have the means or the ability to impact all of that. But what can I do? What can I do? I trust that God is taking care of those things that I can't do anything about. And then I trust him to help me with the little things that I can do. I think this helps to relieve a lot of stress. I think it helps to relieve a lot of anxiety. I think it puts us in a better position to be helpful in ways for the people closest to us and the society, the situation, the circumstances that we are immediately in and impacting for better. It's kind of funny. This is random and kind of off topic, but not really. But I watch some of these YouTubers, and a group that I watch often is called Abba and Preach, and they're talking about this other guy who was really big on YouTube, and I think he got banned. Dude named Sneeko. real funny dude. And I don't know. I remember seeing Sneako's videos early on and how he seemed, he wanted to just talk with people. His whole thing was the 1 minute podcast, I think. I can't remember if he was based out of New York or something, but he'd sit in the subway and just ask random questions to people. And over time, you saw the questions become more, he ended up red pill raging, as he would tell you himself, and starting asking deeper questions about super big issues that people may or may not have been immediately connected to. And you saw the tension there, and you saw the controversy build up because people were being forced to have an opinion on something that they didn't necessarily need to have an opinion on. And that very thing, the reason I brought up Abin Preach is because something I like about their presentation is they don't feel the need to have an opinion on every little thing. I think that's something that society and the bigger world force us into doing. But I think we need to understand, like Abin Preach to, that you don't need to. And you know, they talk about their views on religion, and that's cool. I understand. I think personally that this idea here of dwelling in the secret place of the Most High and abiding under the shadow of the Almighty, I think that's the thing that puts us in the best position to say, hey, I actually don't need to try to solve all the world's problems, or I don't need to have an opinion on every little thing, right? Because what happens when you do, you kind of end up like Sneako did, right? Where in a lot of circles now he's blackballed, and well, there's a lot of other reasons for that. I'm not going to get into all of that right now. But the point is, it's like you always want to have these conversations on these super big things and everyone else is out here just trying to live a normal life and impact the things that they can. They want to be engaging on topics that mean something more to them. Not to say that the big topics don't mean anything to them. Of course, people are going to care, so on and so forth. But the thing is, sometimes people want to be focused more on what they can immediately impact and the things that they can do in their circles and in their immediate society and community. That's the word I was looking for this whole time. There it is. But that's important to people. They want to know that because now it's something applicable. Now it's something practical for them instead of trying to figure out how does little me impact the entire cosmos. You know what I'm saying? So all of that to say, I think it's okay to care about major world issues. And I think it's okay if you do have an opinion on those things. But I think the better place for us to be is where we can impact things practically on a personal level with the people closest to us, in our communities, in our immediate communities. How can we do that? And my argument of all of this is to say that I think the best way that we can do that is by dwelling in the secret place of the Most High. I think that's what gives us the best means of finding out how we can practically impact the people closest to us in our immediate communities. And I think it shields us from the pressure of feeling like we have to respond to every big thing that's going on, because I think it better equips us to serve people right here in our locales. So yeah, that's Psalm 91 verse 1. And this, yeah, I love this chapter, 16 verses. And we might break it down one verse at a time. We might break it down a few, but I think one verse is good enough for today. So like, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right, peace.